The first man perished at dawn. By noon, the death toll had escalated to a dozen, and by sunset, all 100 had vanished. These were no ordinary casualties. They were the most formidable, handsome young men in Babylon, each one chosen for the dubious honor of spending a single night with Queen Semiramis. They entered her private chambers brimming with vitality and hope, only to emerge as mere shells of their former selves, doomed to succumb to an inexplicable and rapid illness that left the kingdom's physicians baffled. As the palace descended into chaos, one figure remained untouched: the queen herself, the solitary, enigmatic survivor of a night that claimed 100 lives. This chilling event would echo through the corridors of time, evolving into one of history's most haunting and disturbing legends. What transpired within the queen's chamber on that fateful night? Was this some act of supernatural malevolence, a hitherto unknown form of poison, or perhaps the handiwork of a being not quite human, a woman who had transcended humanity itself and become something far more perilous? In this video, I will explore 7 documented aspects of Queen Semiramis's reign that reveal she was not merely one of history's most malevolent rulers, but something profoundly more sinister. We will begin by delving into the fatal night, investigating the supernatural events that sent tremors of terror throughout an entire city. We'll examine how a mother's love spiraled into a nightmare for humanity and unearth conflicting archaeological evidence that has remained concealed for decades. By the conclusion of our exploration, you will grasp why some truths should have remained buried. What could have possibly gone so awry that it transformed a queen into something beyond the human realm? Here lies the grim reality. This was no mindless bloodbath born of rage. Queen Semiramis meticulously orchestrated what historians now dub the most calculated mass sacrifice in the annals of ancient history. Imagine being Theon, a 19-year-old slave who believed himself to have won the lottery of life when he was personally selected by the queen. Transferred to the palace, he indulged in lavish meals, daily baths in exotic oils, and was told that he was special, chosen, blessed. For 3 months, he and the other 99 young men lived like princes, entirely unaware that they were being primed for something horrifying. This preparation was not meant to honor them. It was a ritual to purify their blood for what modern scholars refer to as a transformation ritual. And shockingly, one of them would survive to recount the gruesome details of what truly unfolded that night. The selection process began 6 months prior to the ritual, as palace records preserved on administrative tablets detail the precise criteria. Young men aged between 16 and 22 were handpicked for their physical perfection, virginity, and what the documents termed spiritual purity. Teams of royal assessors scoured slave markets throughout the empire, meticulously evaluating thousands of candidates. Measurements for height, evaluations of dental health, and even markings on their bodies were recorded. But it gets even worse. The chosen ones were not only physically flawless. They had to be orphans, young men with no family, no one who would miss them or dare to ask questions about their disappearance. For 3 long months, these 100 were sequestered in a special wing of the palace. Their diet was strictly regulated, consisting solely of specific grains and herbs believed to contain mild psychoactive properties. Daily baths with oils from Egypt and incense from far-off Arabia were part of their purification. They were taught how to read and write, given music lessons, and led to believe they were being groomed for divine service. Tragically, they were encouraged to pen letters of gratitude about their good fortune, unaware that they were inscribing their own obituaries. The chamber where the transformation was to take place underwent extensive preparations. The queen's bedroom, more expansive than most contemporary homes, was methodically altered. The floors were laid with obsidian tiles sourced from distant volcanoes, each one etched with symbols so distressing that gazing upon them became an uncomfortable endeavor. The walls were adorned with archaic characters that predated any known form of writing. Where her bed once stood, a massive altar crafted from a single block of black granite was erected. What many fail to realize is that the workers responsible for these preparations were all executed afterwards. Their remains were discovered entombed within the walls, apparent victims of poisoning. The queen could not risk anyone discovering the full extent of her plans. On the night of the spring equinox, under a moonless sky, the ritual commenced. At sunset, the first young man was brought into the chamber. According to Theron's account, preserved on tablets hidden within the Temple of Nabu, each victim endured approximately 6 minutes in the queen's presence. The process was methodical, ritualistic, meticulously following a pattern rehearsed over weeks. The queen uttered words in a language that predated human civilization itself. Disturbingly, the victims willingly approached their fates, their minds having been conditioned to a state of religious ecstasy, believing they were elevating themselves to divinity. However, Theron's survival was nothing short of miraculous. Due to a rare genetic immunity, he was unaffected by the paralytic toxin derived from a now extinct Mesopotamian plant, which had been intended to immobilize the young men. But what took their lives was far worse. Theron was compelled to remain motionless, feigning death amidst the growing pile of corpses, witnessing horrific acts that would violate any societal decency if described in detail. By the 20th sacrifice, the transformation of the queen had reached a disturbing climax. She no longer appeared entirely human. As the night progressed, phenomena of a supernatural nature intensified. Theron reported a chilling drop in temperature, leading frost to form upon the obsidian tiles despite the arid climate of the desert. Shadows began moving independently of expected light sources, coalescing into shapes reminiscent of titanic winged beings. The blood of the victims didn't simply pool on the ground. It flowed in deliberate patterns, gravitating toward the altar as if propelled by some unseen force. By the time of the 50th sacrifice, witnesses outside the chamber described hearing a chorus of voices harmonizing within, eerie sounds emanating that were distinctly inhuman. At dawn, the aftermath became apparent when guards, adhering to protocol, entered the chamber to attend to their queen. What they discovered sent seasoned soldiers reeling in horror, some retching as they fled the scene. The queen sat amidst 99 corpses, arranged with meticulous precision into a spiral formation. Yet she had changed in ways that defied the imagination. Her movements were unnaturally fluid, almost like liquid mimicking a human form. Her eyes glinted like those of a predator, reflecting light in a disconcerting manner. And when she spoke, her voice resonated with harmonics beyond the capabilities of human vocal cords. Most alarming of all was her apparent vitality. Despite having been awake all night, she seemed invigorated, radiating a power that unsettled all who dared approach her. The guards who stumbled upon her reported that to gaze directly into her eyes induced severe vertigo and plagued their minds with nightmares for weeks. In ancient Mesopotamian belief, blood was held to contain the essence of life, termed nepishtu. By consuming the life force of 100 pure souls, the practitioner could transcend mortal limitations and achieve a state that blurs the line between the human and the divine. Similar yet smaller-scale rituals are documented across various ancient cultures, from the mass sacrifices of the Aztecs to the Wicker Man ceremonies of the Celts and certain pharaonic rites in Egypt, all based on this chilling principle. But there's more to consider. These practices were not merely primitive superstitions. Modern researchers studying quantum consciousness have proposed that extreme emotional states could influence local reality through mechanisms we have yet to fully comprehend. The timing of the ritual was undeniably crucial. The new moon represented hidden knowledge, while the spring equinox signified a balance between light and dark. The age and gender of the victims also bore significant importance. Young men in their prime, possessing virginity, ensured their life force was untouched, while their orphan status guaranteed no one would notice their absence. The queen did not simply murder 100 people at random. This was a calculated act of spiritual technology designed to dismantle the boundaries between humanity and divinity. And according to every credible account that survives, it worked. The pressing question is not whether this dark chapter of history transpired, but how such absolute power could corrupt so fundamentally that the slaughter of 100 innocent young men could be perceived as reasonable. Understanding the political landscape of Babylon in 810 BC provides crucial context. The city was not only powerful, it was the epicenter of the known world. Surrounded by priests who fed her delusions of semi-divine status and armed with knowledge amassed over millennia, perhaps the idea of becoming an actual goddess no longer seemed insane, but rather an inevitable destiny. Consider this. How would one today convey the necessity of sacrificing 100 lives for a promotion? We react with outrage if someone cuts us off in line at a coffee shop, yet such barbarity was seen as a legitimate path to ascendance in ancient times. What is particularly horrifying is the complicity of everyone involved: the guards, the priests, the palace staff, all facilitating this macabre sequence of events. They prepared the ritual chamber, delivered the young men, and diligently cleaned up afterward. When your god queen asserts she must claim 100 lives to achieve immortality, it seems everyone simply acquiesces. Yet the historical record grows even more disturbing after that harrowing night. Queen Semiramis was no longer the same entity that had entered that chamber. The transformation succeeded, but not in a manner anyone could have anticipated. Historical accounts from multiple sources articulate the same inexplicable changes. Palace servants reported that she no longer consumed conventional food. Her eyes became painfully bright, causing even hardened individuals to flinch at their gaze, reminiscent of looking directly at the sun. Shadows around her began behaving in ways that defied all known physics, moving autonomously, disassociating from their respective light sources. Conversations in languages that predate human speech became commonplace for the queen, as she supposedly communicated with presences invisible to others. Yet the truly terrifying change of all was her newfound ability to instill absolute obedience with just her voice. Imagine a supervisor who wields such power that they can override your will merely by speaking. It is no wonder the entirety of Babylon began to experience what modern psychology would classify as mass psychogenic illness. Except maybe it wasn't psychogenic at all. Clinical observations from multiple eyewitnesses documented a series of physical anomalies. The court physician, Nabu Sharma, chronicled the transformation in detail, noting how the queen's skin glowed faintly in dim lighting, her movements grew unnaturally fluid, and she displayed the ability to rotate her head an entire 180 degrees like an owl. The aging process not only slowed, it appeared to cease entirely. Servants who had served her for years attested that she looked more youthful after the ritual than she had prior to it. Unbeknownst to many, similar transformations have been recorded in other cultures, such as the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten, certain Mayan rulers, and even some Chinese emperors, all of whom underwent similar rituals. All showcased changes that defied explanation and ruled through an aura of supernatural fear. Perhaps the most chilling phenomenon was the voice of command. Accounts from multiple sources depict Queen Semiramis uttering single words that compelled immediate compliance. Guards who hesitated to open doors found themselves unlocking them against their will. A priest aiming to withhold sacred texts felt his own hands delivering them to the queen. A scribe attempting to secretly record her activities discovered that his stylus inscribed praises rather than the truth. Furthermore, the commands were not merely psychological, they appeared to exert physical influence. Guards reported their bodies moving involuntarily, executing complex tasks, while their minds revolted against the actions. The phenomenon of moving shadows defied all reasoning, with servants reciting stories of shadows that shifted contrary to light sources, sustained their forms in complete darkness, and seemingly observed individuals diligently. One account describes a shadowy hand extending from a wall to strangle a servant who dared to speak ill of the queen. Another tells of shadowy figures stationed outside her chamber when no physical guards were present. A palace astronomer who sought to study these strange occurrences ultimately succumbed to madness, claiming the shadows possessed depth and that gazing into them felt like staring into an abyss that stared back. The queen's dietary changes disturbed even the most jaded members of the palace staff. After the ritual, she ceased consuming any regular food, and kitchen records note that her meals remained untouched for weeks. Despite this, she exhibited no symptoms of starvation. Instead, secret feeding ceremonies took place monthly, attended only by select priests sworn to secrecy. Those who dared to break their vows mysteriously turned up dead, their bodies desiccated as if they had been drained of all moisture. Frighteningly, the analysis of these remains revealed cellular damage consistent with severe, rapid aging. The pre-human language she began to employ thwarted all linguistic analysis. Court scribes tasked with documenting her speech found themselves unable to complete their work as the symbols proved painful to write, leading to debilitating cramps and even nosebleeds. The frequencies emitted by her voice ranged beyond human vocal capacity. Partial transcriptions surviving through the ages suggest similarities to glossolalia but possess a disturbing coherence. The debate raged: was she communicating with the gods or conversing with something far older and more sinister? The systematic behavioral changes occurring within the palace did not go unnoticed by foreign ambassadors. The entire staff began participating in synchronized movements, turning corners at identical angles, blinking in perfect unison. Individual personalities diminished, and servants morphed into extensions of the queen's will. The Elmite ambassador described entering the Babylonian palace as akin to stepping into a hive where every bee shared a singular mind and purpose. The most unnerving part: the servants seemed oblivious to these profound transformations. When questioned, they assured that everything remained normal, even as they continued to move in eerie, inhuman harmony. Ancient Mesopotamian literature contended that humans could attain divinity by consuming divine essence. It was widely believed that the gods themselves maintained their immortality by feeding on prayers and sacrifices, submerging in the life-blood of the innocent. But what transpired on that fateful spring equinox? What did Queen Semiramis truly become? The history of humanity is replete with tales that evoke both awe and horror, yet few rival the chilling transformation of Queen Semiramis. May her legend endure as a reminder of the balance between ambition and morality, lest we, too, find ourselves consumed by the darker aspects of power. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to support our work and never miss an upload. Like this video, drop a comment, and share it with others to show your support and help us grow this historical community.